I'm Marky, 35 years old. I was divorced, then remarried another person. While working full-time, I'm raising two children born after remarrying. Today is my older son Tyler's first day at elementary school. He was admitted through a competitive entrance exam to the elementary school affiliated with the university my husband and I both attended. My husband and I took the day off to enjoy our child's big day and headed for the school gate. We arrived early, and at the school gate, there was a line next to the school's name for a parent-child photo with lots of smiles on their faces. Shall we take one together once Dad arrives? We talked while waiting on the side for my husband, who was running a bit late. Then suddenly, a familiar voice I wished I could unhear reached my ears.
Could it be Marky?
A wave of indescribable unease swept through me. Someone called my name again. I only turned my eyes toward the voice and saw what I expected. It was my ex-husband. Beside him stood a boy in the same uniform as my son. No way, it's the same elementary school as my son. I thought they were the same age, but despite the shock, I knew I couldn't ruin the atmosphere of this special day. It's been a while. As I exchanged a greeting I had no desire to make, the owner of the voice stepped closer with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Taylor probably felt anxious about my unusual behavior. He squeezed my hand tightly. The warmth of his tiny hand gradually eased the turmoil within me, making me feel calmer. Yet, with nothing particular to say, I wanted to leave this place as soon as possible. Still thinking it inappropriate to leave without saying anything, I muttered a soft "well then" and was about to move when…
What? Trying to run away? After all this time, we had finally seen each other.
Unfortunately, it seemed the other side had no intention of letting the moment pass. In the corner of my diverted gaze, I saw my ex-husband looking amused, and beside him, a boy looking on curiously. Then I heard the clacking of heels in the distance.
Wait, is that your ex-wife? What? A kid? A kid here? Meeting like this? How funny.
Behind my ex-husband, a woman I didn't want to see, Imelda, appeared. Imelda, who had always tried to one-up me with her youthful arrogance, seemed as showy as ever, dressed inappropriately in a tight mini dress and bright red high heels for a prestigious school's first day. Honestly, I couldn't help but wonder how someone like her could have passed the entrance exam for this school. Despite my better judgment not to hold prejudices, remembering her past actions made it difficult not to. As I was lost in these thoughts, my ex-husband maliciously spoke up.
Is he starting school? Seriously, you have a child. Is this your child, by any chance?
Yes, he is.
What? You remarried?
That's right.
So after I dumped you, you ended up with some washed-up, divorced guy with a kid. Remarried with kids, huh? You're an infertile woman.
Stunned by the unbelievable insults, a piercing laughter echoed from the side. After a round of laughter, the two began spewing vulgar conversation.
What's that? Daniel, that's harsh. Talking about her being full of life's stench, calling her defective. That's lawsuit-level stuff.
Why would I get sued? I mean, anyone considering marrying her. That's what they'd get, right? I thought I caught a beauty with brains and looks, but I was wrong. She's just no fun. Too damn serious. Didn't know how to have fun, or wasn't popular, I guess. A prude who doesn't know how to play. Got bored of her in half a year.
Even if that's true, that's awful to say, especially in front of the kid.
So, That's on her for not satisfying me. Her life's a mess because of her own doing.
That's terrible.
If she could have had kids, it might have been different. Seriously, nothing worked, and she was just defective as a woman.
Stop it. You're making me laugh too hard.
Well, because she was like that, I got to meet you, and we had Eric, so thanks for that.
No way. Thanking the ex? Unbelievable.
Kidding. No thanks to her, and her being happy, impossible. This kid, probably her new husband's stepson, doesn't look like her. She's just a hopeless infertility woman, no matter what.
Does infertility mean she has sexual frigidity?
Huh? Is there even a connection?
Seems like it.
Yikes. I was married to a frigid, infertile woman. That's the worst.
Daniel, that's terrible.
Well, but now I have you, who's super sensitive, right?
Stop it.
Like, seriously, it's just so funny that a woman who can have kids remarries a guy who already has kids. I feel so bad for that guy.
I silently listen to them, and the two assholes endlessly have conversations that makes me want to cover my ears. On a sunny day, in front of the school gates, can adults really talk this trashy out loud in public? They don't seem to see the cold stares of others at all. And it's all just baseless gossip. This much talk is more than enough. I really want to leave these people now. As I was thinking this, sorry for the wait, my husband, Mike, approached me a little too quickly. I deliberately raised my voice to address the ex-couple still engaged in their crude and unproductive conversation. Hey, can I have a moment?
Help, Wart.
We might see each other again in the future. Let me introduce you to my husband. The two turned their gaze towards me, catching sight of my tall husband standing by my side. Instantly, the ex-husband's eyes widened, and his face stiffened in shock. Oblivious to this, Imelda next to him gasped in surprise for a different reason.
Wait, what? Your husband is super handsome. Wow.
Ignoring them, Mike briefly glanced at a kid boy in a uniform between them before politely greeting.
Good morning. I'm Mike. Congratulations to us both on our kids' enrollment. If there's anything in the future, I hope we can support each other.
He then gently put down our younger daughter and held out his hand. Following his lead, the two shook hands lightly with him in an awkward motion. Our daughter, now on the ground, joyfully hugged her brother standing close by. He smiled happily and, with the hand not holding mine, tenderly grasped his sister's tiny hand.
And who is this?
Our younger daughter. She's starting preschool this spring.
You have two kids?
Yes, both are truly mine, born and raised. They're incredibly close and adorable siblings. I noticed Mike looking at me with a gentle gaze.
Shall we take a photo and head inside?
Yes, let's go. Excuse us? With a brief nod to the still dazed ex-couple, our family of four headed towards the school gate. We greeted one of my friends nearby and got our family photo taken. Before entering the gate, I glanced back at the spot where we stood earlier. I saw Imelda making a scene and the ex-husband, still unable to move, frozen in place. A few hours later, the first day was over, and we left the school gate and headed slowly to the parking lot. Our kids, as always, were holding hands, chatting, and smiling as they walked. My daughter seemed fascinated by her brother's backpack, looking at it repeatedly. As I couldn't help but smile at the situation. What are you grinning about? It's not a grin. Just thinking they're cute, I said, trying to draw my husband's attention to our two kids. Should we grab some lunch before heading home?
It's still a bit early for that, isn't it?
As we talked like this, we reached our car. I was about to put the kids in the back seat and reach for the passenger door when I heard hurried footsteps approaching. As I was about to turn, I heard a voice saying, "Is your car a Porsche? Are you serious?" I knew it was my ex-husband's voice. He seemed to have been following us for a while, slightly out of breath. "Wait up," Imelda caught up, creating an awkward atmosphere. Actually, I was laughing inside my stomach. Just as I had expected, the guy in front of me wouldn't be satisfied with such mediocre information. My ex-wife, whom I thought was beneath me, is living happily in an unexpected situation. There's no way I can forgive that guy. So, deliberately provoking him with various elements, I did it. Of course, I had no intention of starting a conversation in front of the school gate on such a sunny day. Letting him overhear incomplete information meant he would follow up later. It was all too predictable, and I almost laughed out loud. "What? I have nothing more to say?"
Huh? I have way too much to say.
Responding dismissively as expected, he took the bait. "Too easy." I signaled my husband Mike with my eyes, and he opened the backseat door. After addressing Imelda's son and dismissing Imelda with a few words, Mike lifted the boy into the backseat with our kids. "Be nice, you're friends," he told the kids, handing them drinks and books and patting their heads. "It's all good," he said with a bright smile before quietly closing the door. Watching the whole scene, my ex-husband spat out his words with a severe face.
Feeling smug, huh? Is this some kind of dig at us?
"What do you mean?"
Two kids, happy family. You're trying to rub it in our faces, right?
His emotional outburst only made me more composed. His feelings were always intense, quickly swinging from passionate to furious, and just as quickly to nothing. I remembered the days I was tossed around by his black and white emotions. "Why don't you calm down? What ditch?"
Huh?
We were just going about our day as usual, not trying to make a point or anything. I mean, we haven't even been in touch. I don't know what you have been up to. Of course, I had no idea we'd end up at the same school. How would I make a point of that? If anything, I'm pretty upset about it." The man in front of her fell silent. It seemed there was a bit of guilt for what he had done. So, I decided to cut to the chase. "So, what do you want to know?"
You weren't infertile. What? You were going to a clinic known for treating infertility. That means you were infertile, right?
Eek, why do you keep bringing up infertility?
Because it's true.
Are you saying you've accepted the fact that we had kids?
They look like you.
Despite his earlier claims at the school gate that they didn't, what was this man talking about now? Of course they do. Everyone says especially our oldest son looks just like me.
Indeed.
See, obviously, they're truly mine and Mike's kids.
What about the infertility treatment?
I never went through infertility treatment. I just got tested to see if I was infertile.
Seriously?
Seriously.
Why would you?
What? You were the one always going on about not being able to. Let's skip the middle part, but after consulting and getting some counseling, the tests showed I'm not infertile and could get pregnant just fine.
Why didn't you say anything? I didn't ask about that.
Maybe because you were too busy hanging out every night? That is, her ex-husband said awkwardly. His gaze shifted briefly to where Mike was smiling, and with a forced shift of his awkward gaze, Mike gave a refreshing smile and said, "It's been a while since we last met."
Why with Marky?
Eh.
Why did you and Marky get to know each other?
Haha. You've been flistered since earlier, wondering why your former coworker is now your ex-wife's husband.
The ex-husband couldn't hide his confusion again. Next to him, Imelda listened to their conversation with a bewildered expression.
Would it have been bad if your former coworker was now your husband?
That's not what I mean.
You're still terrible at lying, huh?
What?
Well, it works out for me too. Actually, Mike and I have known each other way before I met you.
Huh?
Marky and we've been childhood friends.
Childhood friends. But you guys are quite different in age, right?
Well, I'm the same age as you. Our moms were childhood friends and both lived in the same hometown.
Nah.
If the moms are close, naturally, the kids end up playing together, right? I've known Marky since she was born. We've been childhood friends for a long time. Of course, we didn't see each other much after I started working.
I didn't know that.
I didn't expect Marky's ex-husband to be you either. I was surprised when I saw you near my parents' house.
You saw me.
It wouldn't be strange to be seen. Sometimes Mike also came my parents' home to visit. But at that time, I didn't know that Mike and my ex-husband were former colleagues.
You didn't want to be seen, did you?
How?
You didn't think. You thought I wouldn't say something weird, right?
Hey?
Even after you married, you were all about overtime and business trips, but really just playing around, right? You went to mixers and parties, and you really made your rounds with the girls at work, didn't you?
Hey, Mike. Stop it.
The ex-husband's discomfort was becoming more apparent. Panicking now over something that happened years ago. Who is he trying to fool? Despite my cold thoughts, I couldn't stop laughing on the inside. So, wanting to laugh more, I deliberately tangled with my ex-husband. What? Are you saying you got scared seeing Mike's face earlier? Thought all of it would come out.
That's...
Wow, really? So, it's that kind of scandalous story you wanted to hide.
Hey.
I wonder what kind of scandalous story it could be. Standing beside my flistered ex-husband, Imelda started to chime in. Seriously, that's bad. You've shown way worse before. No need to act all innocent now. I thought to myself, but with a smile that didn't reach my eyes, I simply said, "Don't worry. No need to freak out now. I knew everything."
Nah.
About Daniel's wandering eye and cheating, I knew.
Why?
He probably never imagined that everything had been out in the open back then, not even in his wildest dreams. The utterly dumbfounded look on my ex-husband's face was so ludicrous, it almost made me stop laughing. At the same time, I felt deep disdain for how little he thought of me. From that time on, he thought of me that way. No matter what I do, she doesn't notice. But the real me was different. I'm not that insensitive. Suppressing the urge to rant, I began to tell my ex-husband a story, making it sound amusing. There was this girl in my cohort who loved mixers and parties. She used to hang out all the time and probably still does. And she's good with people and has a great memory. She saw Daniel's face in one of my wedding photos I showed her by chance, and she was like, "Is this your husband? Seriously, your husband is trouble." She started panicking and then told me all about Daniel's other side.
Other side.
Oh, you weren't aware. The face you showed me and your real face are different, right? I knew that much without having to ask anyone, I said, and their eyes widened in surprise. It's only natural that people who lack such awareness will hurt those around them by behaving that way. Remembering how much it had hurt back then, I bit my lower lip for a moment. This girl, she's amazing. She even sent me videos and photos of Daniel flirting with other girls. This could be evidence if anything happens, she said, worried about me. I was shocked to find out he was partying like he was single right from the start of our marriage. She was a real lifesaver. Did you meet your wife at one of those parties too? If I mentioned that, my ex-husband would clam up. Silence is as good as admission. But admission or not, I still have all the evidence. It's even on my phone in my purse right now. Want me to show you? I can show you the evidence right now. At my offer, my ex-husband vigorously shook his head. No need to reject it that strongly, I laughed, ignoring my ex-husband's glaring look as I continued. It was right after I heard that. We hadn't been married for even a year. Mike sent me a message asking me to go out for a meal to celebrate our marriage. That's when I heard all about what Daniel was up to at his company.
So.
I knew about my ex-husband's infidelity even earlier than my husband thought. The realization on my ex-husband's face was pitiful.
Seriously? Why?
Why did I tell Marky? Well, it's simple. My colleague who kept playing even after getting married was an important childhood friend. Who would I choose? Obviously, the childhood friend. So, I told her everything I knew. Even if it meant Marky got hurt, it was better she knew sooner rather than later.
Everything.
Everything means everything. About the girls at work, the frequent issues with women, and even the dwindling trust of his boss. Oh, remember the big drama when one of the girls claimed she was pregnant and demanded you take responsibility? That led you to quit your job, right?
That's right. Our marriage was short-lived, only a year and a half, but during that time, my husband suddenly quit job. He said it was for a career advancement, but in reality, he couldn't get another job for the long time and seemed to spend his days just hanging out after interviews.
Did you know about that too?
Of course, I did.
Huh? You didn't say anything at the time.
What's the point in saying? Would you have stopped if I had? Well, it doesn't matter. By then, I couldn't accept Daniel for who he was anymore. We barely spoke since you were rarely home, so it wasn't really about saying or not saying.
I wasn't home, that's true.
As a result, your affair partner got pregnant. For Daniel, who was so fussy about getting pregnant, that must have been okay.
Huh? That's because you never got pregnant. But wait, why did you get pregnant?
What is he talking about? I clearly said earlier, I was able to get pregnant.
Then?
Another major factor should come to mind right away. I desperately tried to suppress the anger rising in my head due to sheer arrogance. Well, yeah, because there was no factor for pregnancy.
Huh? Factor for pregnancy?
Pregnancy requires both a man and a woman, right?
Of course. It happens when a man and a woman do what they do.
So I could get pregnant normally with Mike, but not with Daniel. What does that tell you? Would he realize something, or would he not? As expected, he started to spout nonsense. How would I know something like that? My faint hope was betrayed, as always, when it came to this man. To silence the man who started to lash out, I calmly declared, Daniel was sterile. For a moment, time seemed to stop at my words. Then, suddenly, the man in front of me started laughing as if holding his stomach.
Huh? What are you talking about? I have a kid right here. If I didn't have the seed, this boy wouldn't exist, would he?
His exasperated laughter was as if to say, "Are you out of your mind? Then maybe you should take a look at your wife's face.
Help!
Look at your wife's face." All eyes shifted. Ahead stood Imelda, her face drained of color, flashy in appearance. Her beautifully manicured fingertips were trembling ever so slightly. She was desperately trying to hide her expression from her husband. It's clearly odd, yet even seeing her like that, the husband didn't seem to catch on. "You okay? You look pale."
Yeah.
Her barely audible reply inevitably came back to me.
Hey, it's because you said something weird. She's freaking out.
Well, of course, she'd be shaking. Something she's hidden for years might come out. Looking again at Imelda, her colorless face seemed on the verge of tears.
Hey, don't mess around. Don't talk nonsense.
He's turning red and even sweating. How stupid he is. He continued to defend Marky without knowing anything about what she did, but I dropped the biggest bomb without hesitation. The thing that didn't make sense was only for me. When I went for the tests, I had no issues. It was the husband who was sterile.
Nah.
Really, I've had enough. All this time, being looked down upon by that sterile man, forced into things, and then blamed for being infertile. My rights were completely ignored.
Hey,
Huh?
the test results.
This person's memory seems to conveniently drop anything inconvenient. Fits right into an all-or-nothing personality. When we were going through fertility consultations, you had a test once, right, Daniel?
Did I?
Really convenient, huh? Why do I have to do this here? Complaining at the clinic. Who was that again? The ex-husband, having dredged up the memory, mutters in a small voice. Forgetting such an experience, he's really off his rocker in more ways than one. I heard it from Mike. At a company party, Daniel was boasting he'd never gotten anyone pregnant despite not using protection.
Mike, you.
Was I not supposed to say? You were bragging like it was some epic tale, so I thought it didn't matter who heard it.
Facing my ex-husband's beet red and angry face, while Mike stays cool as a cucumber. Shows how much peace of mind can affect you, I thought vaguely. That's why, if it's true, it wouldn't be weird at all if I couldn't get pregnant. That's why I dragged Daniel to the fertility consultations.
No way.
I wanted to clarify if the infertility issue was on your side.
What?
Then it turned out to be a bingo. Daniel is definitely shooting blanks. If you doubt it, I can show you the test results, I said as my ex-husband bit his lip. The woman next to him, Imelda, looks like she might collapse any moment. So, when Daniel brought this woman, I knew, he's been duped. The child in her belly isn't Daniel's. My ex-husband, utterly shocked, stammers and screams with a voice turned high-pitched.
What? Why didn't you say anything?
It's none of my business. You two were the ones getting all excited. After all, you're the one who ruined my marriage. You left me because you thought she was pregnant with your child. You left without saying anything to me, right? And the affair with the coworker was the worst. Trying to settle things behind your wife's back. And it was a partially listed company you got into through connections.
Damn.
Wait a minute. My ex-husband, red as a lobster and shaking with rage, starts to grab not me but Imelda by the collar before I even finish speaking. "Stop," she pleads in a weak voice, but his gripping hand does not stop. Driven by emotion, he shakes her collar and curses.
You. Whose kid did you try to pin on me, you floozy?
His tightening grip slowly suffocates Imelda.
But I really didn't know who the dad was. Daniel was just there for me at that time.
What? Just because I happened to be there at the time.
That's not it.
Imelda's hands overlap his, slightly loosening his grip. My ex-husband keeps asking Imelda, who is breathing heavily.
What do you mean by not it? You knew it wasn't my child, didn't you?
The girls around us were saying that we don't have to worry about getting pregnant with Daniel, even without protection. So, I thought maybe you were infertile.
What? Was I just a pawn in some kind of crazy gamble? Seriously, screw this.
I'm sorry.
So you knew and still decided to burden me with your lives?
I'm sorry.
A farcical display unfolding right before my eyes. This farce unfolding before me cools my emotions. Honestly, even witnessing their dangerous behavior, I don't intend to take sides. One is my ex-husband, and the other his former mistress who took him away. I felt no urge to stop what was happening. Glancing briefly at the back seat, I could faintly see inside a car, where three kids seemed to happily look at a book together, their laughter occasionally reaching my ears. "Please, don't look this way," I wished as I waited with a distant gaze for the ugly dispute to quiet down. It's been a month since school started. Today, too, I drop off my son in front of the school gate.
Bye, Mom. I'm off.
"All right, have a good day." He quickly finds his friends and they greet each other before walking through the school gate together. Watching his small back disappear into the school building, I head to the place where I'm meeting Mike.
Did you drop him off without any issues?
Of course, he seems to have made new friends already. He went into school looking happy.
That's good to hear.
Today, we're both taking a day off. After dropping off my son and Mike, his daughter, we went to our favorite cafe to enjoy a breakfast together, savoring some rare weekday couple time.
By the way, what happened to that kid?
My husband is referring to my ex-husband's child. It seems like he transferred school. They were in a different class, and I only heard it from some moms, but after the first day of the school, he never showed up again, and his seat just disappeared.
That stuff. They had such terrible parents, but it's not the kid's fault.
Yeah, you're right. At that time, the three kids were smiling and playing together in the car. The temperature was so different from the situation outside that it made my heart heavy even as I was involved. But it was a delicate issue I couldn't do anything about, as much as it involved my ex-husband. Rather, if I hadn't let go of my ex-husband at that time, maybe I couldn't have saved that child's life. I wanted to protect a small life rather than continue a broken marriage, I found myself thinking. Back then, I simply thought, as long as that small life is saved, it's good, but now I occasionally wonder, was it really good for that child to be born? And it makes my chest tight. Noticing my downcast mood, my husband chuckles softly.
You're thinking about something troublesome again, aren't you?
Yeah.
It's okay. I saw them in the city the other day. 3 of them were out together, side by side.
Oh, really?
Yo, he looked really refreshed.
Remembering the 3 of them with distant eyes, Mike smiles softly. Then, everything must be okay. So, maybe there was a reason we met that day. Yeah, it must have been fate. Honestly, it was quite stressful, though, Mike joked, and I can only feel grateful to him. I can't thank him enough. He's someone I need to stay by my side forever. If only the other two would feel the same. And I hope they'll protect that kid. Thinking this, I looked up to see a faint rainbow in the sky.